It's wild, isn't it? Like nearly 500 million people globally tuning into podcasts. That's a lot of ears.
It really is.
Today, we're going deep on the business side of this podcast boom,
Okay, yeah.
specifically the role of a podcast producer. Now, you might be thinking, wait, I'm not trying to start a business, but stick with us.
Yeah.
Even if you never touch a microphone, getting how production works, well, it kind of pulls back the curtain on your favorite shows.
It's fascinating because it's not just the tech skills that those matter, it's why this business model's taken off the way it has.
Totally. It's like every company, every influencer, suddenly it's podcasts. We need podcasts.
Mhm.
But not everyone can actually, make the thing.
Right. Classic supply and demand podcasts, high demand. People who can make them sound good, not so much.
Opportunity knocks, right?
Yeah.
So let's break it down. What does a podcast producer do? Our sources paint a pretty interesting picture, and it's way more than hitting record.
Oh, way more. It's multifaceted. A good producer is in on everything, from the very first idea to getting it out there in the world.
And that first idea, that pre-production phase, that's where the magic starts. Imagine working with someone who wants to make, a detective show, but for unsolved historical mysteries.
Ooh, I like it. But it's more than a cool idea. You gotta flesh it out. Episode structure, guests, the whole 9 yards.
Right, so the episodes are actually, good, engaging, informative, the whole deal.
Exactly.
Solid foundation, right. Then comes recording, and our sources are saying fancy studio setup isn't everything.
Nope. A good producer can make someone sound fantastic, even recording from their, kitchen table.
It's like vocal coaching, right? Helping them relax, project, find that sweet spot where they sound natural and confident.
Huge difference for listeners. If you aren't connecting with the voice, you're not connecting with the content.
True.
And that takes us to editing. Raw audio, transformed.
The audio equivalent of polishing a diamond.
Love it.
Our sources, they actually recommend producers have before and after samples in their portfolios. It's genius. You can literally hear the difference.
Oh, absolutely. Raw recording versus the final product, night and day. Cleaning up the audio, music, sound effects, maybe some archival clips to immerse the listener.
Taking a rough draft to a polished masterpiece. I've clicked away from so many podcasts, that sound amateurish, where there's distracting background noise. That editing magic, it's essential.
First impressions matter. Bad audio, listeners are gone.
So episodes edited, ready to roll. What's next?
Launch it. Get it out there. Spotify, Apple, Google, the whole shebang.
But strategically, right?
Yeah.
Not just uploading a file.
Oh, there's strategy for sure. Titles, descriptions, keywords. You want people to actually find the podcast, maybe even little audiograms, those video snippets you see on social media. It's all about reaching the right listeners.
Okay, so we're seeing this podcast producer.
Yeah.
They wear a lot of hats, part creative, part technical, part marketing whiz.
Multi-talented, gotta be. And speaking of technical, what about the tools? What are we talking about here?
Well, microphones are a given, right?
Definitely.
Got to start with the sound.
Our source mentions two popular choices.
Okay.
First, the Shure SM7B dynamic mic, known for that rich, broadcast quality sound. It's a studio favorite, like a rock star's stage mic.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Then there's the Blue Yeti USB mic, perfect for starting out or recording remotely. Super user-friendly and great sound for the price.
So you don't necessarily need a crazy expensive studio to get going.
Exactly.
Our sources say even free software like Audacity can be a fantastic way to learn editing.
Absolutely. You can totally dive in without breaking the bank. Start with the basics and upgrade as you go, as you learn.
Smart. Okay, let's talk money. How does a podcast producer actually get paid? Is it hourly, project fees, something else?
There are a few models. A lot of new producers, they'll start with an hourly rate.
Makes sense.
Could be anywhere from $25 to $100 an hour, depends on experience, what they offer. But as they get more clients, build a name for themselves, many switch to a per episode fee or a retainer. More stable income that way, and you build stronger client relationships.
Yeah, that makes sense. So per episode covers the whole process for one episode.
Yeah.
Retainer is ongoing for a certain number of episodes or hours.
Exactly. With a retainer, you really get to know the client's needs, their goals. It's more collaborative, more successful in the long run. Let's say you have, 5 clients, each paying a $1,000 a month retainer.
Okay, so that's $5,000 a month. $60,000 a year.
Not bad for a business you can run from home.
Not bad at all.
And that's just the beginning. As you get better, build your reputation, there's a ton of potential to grow.
So where do these producers find these clients? Online.
Yeah.
Networking.
It's both, actually. Places like Upwork, Fiverr, they're great for getting started. But don't underestimate the power of like the podcasting community.
Oh yeah, word of mouth.
Going to events, online forums, Facebook groups, those are gold for connections. And think local, too.
Local. Like businesses in my town.
Absolutely. Small businesses, they might be looking to start a podcast. And some of them, they prefer working with someone face-to-face. Build your portfolio right in your own backyard.
That's smart. Okay, so lots of ways to find clients. But let's shift gears a bit. What makes a producer really stand out, thrive in this whole scene?
Well, beyond the technical, beyond the business stuff, our sources highlight three big things: managing expectations, building relationships, and always learning.
So it's not just the tech, it's the people skills too.
100%. Managing expectations starts with communication up front. Those tough conversations about deadlines, budgets, what's realistic.
If everyone's on the same page from the beginning, less chance of like blow-ups later.
Totally. A good contract is crucial. It protects everyone. Responsibilities, payment terms, everything spelled out nice and clear.
Roadmap for the project, basically. So expectations are managed. But what about juggling multiple projects? Sounds stressful.
Oh, it can be. Imagine several projects, all at different stages, each with its own deadlines, its own quirks. Organization is your best friend.
I can see it getting messy fast.
Project management tools like Trello, Asana, they're lifesavers. It's like having a virtual assistant to keep you on track.
Makes sense.
But even perfectly organized, you got to stay ahead of the curve, right? This industry moves fast.
Right, like the Red Queen and Alice in Wonderland got to run
yeah.
just to stay in place.
Exactly. New tech, new formats. A producer who isn't learning, adapting, they're going to get left behind. Our sources, they stress investing in quality, building those relationships, and expanding your skill set.
Makes sense. Break those down. What does investing in quality actually look like?
Professional equipment, top-notch editing skills. It's about delivering that high-quality audio no matter what, because even with amazing content, bad audio, it's a killer, like a gourmet meal served on a dirty plate.
Ruins the whole experience.
Exactly. Then there's relationships. It's more than just, here's your podcast, see ya. You become a partner with your clients.
Understanding their vision, their goals, working together to make it happen. Real trust, real rapport.
And when you have that, the whole project goes smoother, more creative, more successful.
Okay, last one. Expand your service offerings. What else can producers do besides recording and editing?
Transcriptions, marketing, promotion. Some even get into video podcasts or consulting, becoming the one-stop shop for all things podcasting.
It's about being versatile, right? Adapting to whatever the client needs.
This industry is always changing. You have to be adaptable, innovative, always adding value.
You know, it strikes me that through all of this, the human element is key. The tech is important, but it's the relationships, the communication, the passion that makes the work great.
Totally agree. Every great podcast, it's got a talented team behind it.
Yeah.
And the producer, they're often the unsung heroes, the ones who make it all come together.
Makes me think differently about the podcasts I listen to. What are the producers doing? All the work behind the scenes.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Which brings us back to that question, what makes a podcast great?
I think we're ready to tackle that one now after this whole deep dive.
You know, we've been talking about all the exciting stuff, the potential in podcast production, but it's important to acknowledge that there are challenges too. It's not always sunshine and roses.
True. I mean, no job is, right?
Right, exactly. Every field has its, its hurdles, its quirks.
Yeah, for sure.
So what makes podcast production particularly challenging, though?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, our sources pointed to really three main challenges: managing client expectations,
Okay.
juggling multiple projects at once, and then also keeping up with this ever-evolving world of podcasting.
Yeah, it seems like those would be pretty universal for anyone in a creative field, really.
It's true.
So what makes them particularly tricky, I guess, for podcast producers?
Yeah, I think managing client expectations can be tough because podcasting is often so personal for people,
Yeah.
They're pouring their heart and soul into these projects, and they might have a very specific vision in mind.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And if that vision clashes with the producer's creative approach or what's realistically achievable with like time and budget,
Yeah.
that's where things can get a little sticky,
Yeah, totally. Like having those upfront conversations, that feels like a big one.
It's huge.
Like getting on the same page, having those maybe slightly uncomfortable conversations at the beginning is way better.
Oh, way
Having
better.
like a blow up or a disappointment down the line.
Right, exactly. And I think that's also where, a contract, a well-defined contract is super helpful
Go for it.
because it's all in writing. The responsibilities, the deadlines, the payment terms, all of it.
Yeah.
It protects both the producer and the client, and it kind of sets the stage for a smoother working relationship.
Totally. It's like a roadmap, right, for the whole thing.
It is, yeah, totally.
So everyone's on the same page from the get-go. So we talked about managing expectations, but what about juggling multiple projects at once? That sounds like a recipe for stress.
Oh, it absolutely can be. Imagine having several projects, in different stages of production,
Oh my gosh.
each with their own unique deadlines and client needs and creative challenges. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Organization and time management are your best friends in that situation.
Essential, yeah.
Mm.
Are there like any specific tools or strategies that people are using out there in the field to stay on top of it?
Yeah, there are all kinds of project management tools, actually, that are out there. Things like Trello or Asana, for example. Those are incredibly helpful for keeping track of deadlines. You can use them for delegating tasks, for storing project information, really just keeping everything organized.
So it's like having a virtual assistant, kind of.
It really is. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, wow.
Whether you're a podcast producer or not.
Yeah, that's true.
Those tools can be real game changers. But even with, even if you're a super organized person, you still have this challenge of staying ahead of the curve in this industry, right?
Right, yeah, exactly.
Because it's constantly changing, New technologies, new formats, new ways to engage with listeners are always popping up.
Yeah, it feels like you can never stop learning in this field.
You can't. And if you do, you risk becoming outdated.
It's like the Red Queen race.
It is.
You got to keep running just to stay in the same place.
Right, you do. So the question is, how do producers stay ahead of the curve? How do they make sure they're offering their clients the best service, even as things change?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Well, our sources emphasized again and again the importance of investing in quality,
Okay.
building really strong relationships, and also expanding your skill set so that you can offer a wider range of services.
Makes sense. Let's break those down a little bit, starting with investing in quality. What does that actually mean, practically speaking?
I think, practically speaking, it means using professional-grade equipment.
Okay.
It means honing your editing skills, really just striving to deliver the highest possible audio quality.
Yeah, I think that's a huge one.
Even if a podcast has amazing content,
Yeah.
if the audio quality is poor, it can be a real turnoff for listeners.
Absolutely.
It's like trying to enjoy a gourmet meal that's served to you on a dirty plate.
Yeah, totally. It ruins the experience.
It does, yeah.
So investing in those tools and constantly refining your skills, yeah, that's super important.
It's super important for sure, but it goes beyond just the technical,
Yeah.
building strong relationships is equally as important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does that look like in podcast production, though?
It's about going beyond simply delivering a service.
Okay.
You have to become a true partner to your clients, understand their vision, their goals for the podcast.
Yeah. It's about building a relationship that goes beyond just a business transaction, right?
Right, exactly. It's about building trust and rapport.
Yeah.
And when you have that foundation of trust and understanding, it just elevates the whole working relationship.
Absolutely.
It often leads to, more creative and successful outcomes.
Okay. And the final point that our sources brought up was expanding your service offerings.
Yes.
So what are some of the things beyond recording and editing that producers might offer?
There's actually quite a lot. It could be things like offering transcription services.
Oh, okay.
It could be helping clients with marketing and promotion.
Okay.
Some producers even branch out into video podcast production.
Right.
Or offer consulting services to clients, maybe to help them develop their podcasting strategy.
So it's like becoming a one-stop shop, basically, for all things podcasting.
Right. It's about having that versatility and being able to adapt to the client's needs.
Adaptability, it seems like a theme here.
Yeah, it is. The podcasting landscape is always changing.
Yeah.
And successful producers are the ones who can adapt, they're innovative, and they're always looking for ways to add value for their clients.
Yeah. What strikes me is, through all of this, how important that human element is, it seems like.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, there's all the technical stuff, there's the equipment, there's the software, but ultimately it's the relationships.
It is.
It's the communication, it's the passion
Yes.
that seems like it really makes a difference.
It does. You're absolutely right. It's a good reminder that Behind every successful podcast, there's this talented, dedicated team working to make it happen.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, it's the producers, those kind of behind-the-scenes heroes, who are playing a really pivotal role.
Makes me think about all the podcasts that I listen to. Now I'm wondering, who are the producers behind those?
Yeah.
What's all the work that they're putting in
Right.
to create those experiences?
It's a really interesting thing to think about, isn't it?
It is. It brings us back to that question that we posed earlier. What separates a good podcast from a truly great one?
Yeah.
What keeps us coming back? What keeps us hitting that subscribe button?
It's a great question. I think after this deep dive, after learning about all of this, we're ready to really tackle that question.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've really gotten into like the nuts and bolts of this whole podcast production thing. The skills, the business side, the challenges. But let's get to the heart of it. What makes a podcast not just good, but great? What makes us hit subscribe and wait for that next episode?
The million-dollar question, right? I don't think there's one secret ingredient. But looking back at what we've learned about the production side, some themes definitely emerge.
For me, it's got to sound good. Like if the audio quality is rough, if there's background noise, I'm out.
Totally. Like imagine a movie beautifully shot versus a shaky home video. That production quality sets the whole mood, you know? It either pulls you in or it's like, nope.
But it's more than just the tech stuff, right? It's
Yeah.
the content, the stories, the insights, the stuff that makes you think or feel something or even laugh.
100%. A great podcast, it pulls you in, makes you curious. You finish an episode and you're like, give me more. Like you learned something new or saw things differently.
And I think that's where the host is so important. A great host, they make you feel like you're just chatting with a friend, even if you've never met him.
That connection, that authenticity, it's huge. A good host can make even the most complex stuff relatable.
Plus, and let's be real, there are so many podcasts out there. You got to stand out. Originality is key.
Oh, definitely. A unique format, a fresh take on something familiar, a deep dive into something super niche. You gotta offer something nobody else is doing.
Create something unique, valuable, something that specific audience is craving. And it makes me think all this stuff we've talked about, production, the content, the host, even marketing, it all works together.
It's like a symphony, right? Each instrument adds to the whole. And I think this deep dive into podcast production, it's given us a better ear for how that all comes together.
It has. Next time I'm listening to my faves, I'm going to be noticing all the little things. Sound effects, music, the pacing, how the host delivers the lines. Real appreciation for what's going on behind the scenes.
And hey, maybe this deep dive has even got you thinking about starting a podcast.
Ooh, right.
The world of podcasting, it's huge, it's growing all the time, there's room for new voices.
That's what's so cool. Anyone with a passion, a story, they can find an audience. And now, thanks to everything we've learned, we can go into it with a lot more understanding.
Exactly. So, to all our listeners, keep exploring, keep finding new voices, keep learning, and who knows, maybe one day we'll be featuring your podcast on the deep dive.
That's a great thought to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into podcast production. We'll catch you next time.